Last year, Black America in 2016, we spent $2 billion on Air Jordans, $4 billion on liquor and alcohol, $600 million on fast food, and we bought twice the amount of Mercedes Benzes as white America, although white America has twice the wealth of black folk. So the question becomes, what is it about the Mercedes Benz that makes it so attractive to African Americans even when they can barely afford it? And it's because it's a status symbol.
That's all.
And one thing we know about oppressed people, when you can't enjoy true freedom, you surround yourself with the symbols of that freedom.
Absolutely.
And that's why the Louis bag is so important. That's why our children will kill for Air Jordans. It's not the sneaker. It's what it represents. Right. And if I believe I'm worthless, that means I can only add value to myself by what I put on my body as opposed to what I put in.
All right, Shalom. There's a brother Nahalia from the GMS Orlando camp. I want to start off by giving all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, by Hashem, Yahweh Shai, by Hashem, Rakah Kodash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, who are the elders of Yashar Allah, and a sincere salutation to all you Akim, who are preaching this word and believing this word, and to the Akwath, who are believing this word in all truth and in sincerity. Now, I want to go into a lesson based on this article, and it reads, The Decadent Veil, Black America's Wealth Illusion. All right, and it says, I'm just going to get into the point of the article. All right, Lord willing, this be edifying. It says, I write this piece following the groundwork laid by W.E.B. Du Bois, Veil of Double Consciousness. The veil he described was a visualization of the racial duality blacks take on as part of their American identity. I now undertake the daunting task of clarifying the new veil of economics that has covered the struggles of a generation. The decadent veil looks at black Americans through a lens of group theory and seeks to explain an illusion that has taken form over a 30-year span of financial deregulation and newfound access to unsecured credit. This veil is trimmed with million-dollar sports contracts, Rock Nation tour deals, and designer labels made for heads of state. As black celebrity invited us into their homes through shows like MTV Cribs, we forgot the condition of overall African American financial affairs. All right, and I like to go into this through the spirit every now and then on the highways and hedges, that you judge the quality of a nation on the average individual of that nation and not on the exceptions. There's a reason that folly is set in great dignity. All right, as a matter of fact, through the spirit, I want to grab that first and foremost. There's Ecclesiastes chapter 10 and verse 6. And it reads, Folly is set in great dignity, and the rich sit in low place. I have seen servants upon horses and princes walking as servants upon the earth. All right, so folly has been set in great dignity, and a lot of these so-called black celebrities, all right, are really high-paid servants of folly. And what do I mean by that? Most of that wealth, if you want to call it wealth, is generated through entertainment, whether it's athletic entertainment, musical entertainment, television or visual entertainment. It all revolves around a form of entertainment. And that's why the scriptures talk about folly being set in great dignity. And what Esau has done is he's paid Jake in these different industries very large sums of money compared to the average income of Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. Make no mistake, their income compared to the so-called white man and their average income and the rich and the actual wealthy of their nation is nothing compared to the actual wealth of these Edomites. But they're put on a pedestal to make Jake forget about their own struggle, to forget about their actual condition. All right, they're paid distractions. And this is why most of the so-called celebrities of our people really make money off exploiting their own people. Whether it's making songs about being broke, even though they've never been broke or they haven't been broke for decades. When you deal with guys like Jay-Z and Rick Ross, these are people who haven't been in the condition of the average Negro, Latino, or Native American for decades. Yet they make songs that glorify the struggle as if they live it. And then when they get other deals, it's usually revolving around liquor, casinos, things that don't actually bring value to your people. And this goes into this article, the decadent veil. All right, because when you deal with that word decadent, it says dissolute, characterized by or reflecting a state of moral or cultural decline. And why is that? Because when you look at those who have been propped up for our people to admire, the money that they make is off of decadence, off of moral decline. You know, they don't tell our people to love each other to love your neighbor as you love yourself. They don't make songs like that. They don't make songs to tell our people to be spiritual, to think as a nation of people. All right. To not to obey the laws of the land to the best of your ability. That's not the tune that they sing. And this is why Esau pays them so much money. You got to think, if the so-called white man decided not to pay rappers as much money as he did, a lot of these guys who talk about money and having wealth and that they not broke no more, they will go broke overnight. If that whole industry, if Esau decided, I'm not paying millions of dollars for Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans to rap about killing each other, or I'm not paying millions of dollars for Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans to go in stadiums and either kick a ball or catch one or shoot one in a hoop, everything that Jake brags about will be taken away overnight. And that's another nation that has control over you to do so. All right, continuing in this article, it says the veil he described was a visualization of racial duality blacks take on as part of their American identity. Now I'm going to skip down. It says, I now undertake the daunting task of clarifying the new veil of economics that has covered the struggles of a generation. The decadent veil looks at black Americans through a lens of group theory and seeks to explain an illusion that has taken form over a 30-year span of financial deregulation and newfound access to unsecured credit. This veil is trimmed with million-dollar sports contracts, Rock Nation tour deals, and designer labels made for heads of state. As black celebrity invited us into their homes through shows like MTV Cribs, we forgot the condition of overall African Americans' financial affairs. Despite a large section of the 14 million black households drowning in poverty and debt, the stories of a few are told as if they represented those of millions, not thousands. It is this new veil of economics that has allowed for a broad swath of America to become not just desensitized to black poverty, but also hypnotized by black celebrity. How could we not? Our channels from ESPN to VH1 are filled with presentations of black Americans being paid a king's ransom to entertain. All right, and that goes back to folly being set in great dignity. And through that institution, a lot of our people, all right, they have this illusion that we're in a good case because they look at the exceptions and not the average. And this is not done by accident. It's done by design. All right, continuing, it says, you know what, let me jump. It says, as black celebrity has been shown to millions of people, millions of times the story of real lives has also been lost. And with it, the engine that thrusts forward the demand for social justice by the masses. Now, what they're saying is basically by people like Jay-Z, people like Beyonce and Lil Wayne being propped up, LeBron James, Kobe Bryant while he was alive. People like that being propped up gave the world an illusion that so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans were not actually poor, when in reality, our people are poor on average. And what it has done for our people is our people go out every weekend and try to imitate the lifestyle of these people that have been paid, as this article says, a king's ransom for folly. This is why the Lord mentioned this in Haggai, the first chapter. All right, this is Haggai chapter 1. And I will jump down to verse 4. You know what? Let me start at 3. Then came the word of the Lord by Haggai the prophet, saying, Is it time for you, O ye, to dwell in your sealed houses, and this house lie waste? Now therefore, thus saith the Lord of hosts, consider your ways. Ye have sown much, and bring in little. Ye eat, but ye have not enough. Ye drink, but ye are not filled with drink. Ye clothe you, but there is none warm. And he that earneth wages to put into a bag with holes. Thus saith the Lord of hosts, consider your ways. So this is the lifestyle of the average Negro, Latino, or Native American. Putting their money into a bag with holes. In modern times, they say living check to check. This is the lifestyle of the average Negro, Latino, or Native American. But what happens is they prop up so-called celebrities, and it gives the illusion that our people are not in a destitute position. And this is what this article is going into. Because you again, you judge the quality of a nation by the commonwealth, meaning the average life of a member of your nation. If their average life is poor, then as a nation of people, you're poor. And what's been ingrained in our people is that because you have a Jay-Z or Lil Wayne, everyone else that's struggling as a nation of people, they're struggling because they made bad decisions. This is the mentality that the so-called rich of our people have implanted in Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. So that you don't really look at the situation you're in and that you have another nation with their foot on your neck. You look at it like you're not doing something right. Or your uncle, your auntie, or your sons, or whatever the case may be. And this is why folly is set in great dignity. This is why Esau sets this up this way, because it forces our people to not look at our nation as a nation, but to look at our people as an individual. All right, now continuing, it says this. The heartbeat of social action is to recognize your mistreatment and demand better. With each presentation of Kobe Bryant's $25 million a year contract or Oprah's status as the sole African-American billionaire, a veil of false calm is created within the overall American economic psyche about the immense black wealth disparity. Young black men from ghettos across America that used to dream to make great changes in racial inequity now just dream to be a millionaire and be like Mike and dunk a ball or dance on a stage. The decadent veil not only warps the black community's vision outward to a larger economic world, but it also distorts outside communities' view of black America's actual financial reality. And this is why you have the term blacks are lazy, dealing with the Southern Kingdom. Because they see these deals that are given to these athletes and they say, well, you're just lazy. This is the image that's propped up. And another thing that was mentioned in this article is that it teaches the young generation of our people that are coming up that it's no longer about the commonwealth of your nation. It's about your own individual efforts. Because most of these guys that get rich, they don't actually buy grocery stores or do anything that can give you substantial change in your community as a nation of people. They buy things that exploit your already broke condition. Getting a new liquor brand is not a ups for us as a people. But they've convinced our people that this is what it is. And this is why the scriptures talk about the commonwealth of Israel. See, we're not fighting for our own individual wealth per se. We're fighting for the commonwealth. Lord willing, we be a part of that number. And the Lord's intention is to deliver us so that we have a commonwealth. When you think about the so-called white man as a nation of people, they have the opportunity where even if they don't feel the same way as the next so-called white man, because they have this image of being on top of the world, they're accepted on average and treated on average like they're better. This is what the world calls white privilege, but really it's the privilege of being the number one nation on the earth through conquest. See, in the kingdom of heaven, there's going to be the Commonwealth of Israel. Right now, you're witnessing the Commonwealth of Edom. And really, you're witnessing it being taken away. But what is called white privilege is really, it's Edomite privilege. And it's the privilege of being in rulership as a nation of people. That's the best way I can put it. And that means that the average so-called white man, if they clean themselves up, put on a suit, and go to Thailand or Malaysia, they're going to be treated like a rich so-called white person, even if they're not actually rich in reality. That is an example of commonwealth, a common benefit that a nation of people shares between themselves because of their position on the planet. Now, Esau has taught our people to not think on that level, and to only think as an individual. And this is why you see a lot of the things happen amongst our people. Now, all of this is ultimately according to prophecy through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shem Yahushai. But it's a beautiful article to bring out to point towards, through the spirit, what the Lord was trying to teach us from the beginning. When you deal with scriptures that tell you to love your neighbor as you love yourself, all right, it's teaching you to have a commonwealth amongst each other. When it tells you to not be a respecter of persons, it's teaching you to have a commonwealth where you don't judge your neighbor based on his wealth. You judge him based on him being a part of your nation, and you love him as you love yourself. That's the wisdom the Lord gave us. The environment we're in right now is unnatural. It's not our customs. It's not our culture. And that's why none of this works for us as a nation of people. Yeah, you might catch some slime balls that slide through the cracks and that use this wicked world to a point where they can elevate themselves. But as a nation of people, we don't win in this condition. Because this is not the way that we prosper as a nation. All right, real quick, I want to point to the law. This is Leviticus chapter 19 and verse 18. And it reads, let me start at 17. It says, "Thou shalt not hate thy brother in thine heart. Thou shalt in any wise rebuke thy neighbor and not suffer sin upon him. Thou shalt not avenge nor bear any grudge against the children of thy people, but thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. I am the Lord." But the culture we live in now, as this article points out, the decadent veil promotes our people not thinking about the quality that we have or don't have as a nation of people, but to only think about your own self-interest. And that goes back into Haggai, the first chapter, when it talks about our people building their own sealed houses and not focusing on the house of the Lord. Because the house of the Lord is how we as a nation prosper. All right, now, I really touched the points on this one, but I'll read this last point. It says, the decadent veil not only warps the black community's vision outward to a larger economic world. And what that means is that when they put up LeBron James $100 million, he just became a billionaire. Jay-Z became a billionaire. It makes the other nations look at our people's condition like, man, they're not really poor. They just lazy. They just cry victim. They're not really poor. They're not really all of that racism, slavery stuff. That was just the past. They just lazy now. When they put up guys like Kobe Bryant, LeBron James, Jordan, Jay-Z, Lil Wayne's, that's basically what they're telling the world, because the world don't see the average condition of you Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. They only see these exceptions. Finishing off, it says, but it also distorts outside communities' view of Black America's actual financial reality. Because in actuality, despite what our people put on Instagram and social media, despite what our people do every weekend by going to the club and getting fresh, our people are poor as a nation on average. And everything that you see that our people do on the outside, wearing these designer belts and clothes, is a facade, it's fake. And they do that because they believe that's the only way they'll be accepted. All right, so Lord willing, this was edifying. You know what? I'll put this article in the chat, in the description, to read more on it. But again, Lord willing, this was edifying. With that, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh Shem Yahushai. And with that, I'll say shalom.